we're looking at Act 1, Scene 1, the key quotes, and this is part 2 of our analysis of the key quotes of that scene. To recap, Lear announces his decision to abdicate. Goneril and Regan, recognising their father's vulnerability to flattery, decide to give him this sycophantic false praise. I love your majesty according to my bond is what Cordelia says. She therefore is banished, down my sometime daughter, but Goneril and Regan are rewarded. We're now going to get into looking at some of the other very important key moments in Act 1, Scene 1, and very important quotes to learn. First of all, when Kent intervenes, and don't forget, as I speak here, you should be making notes in your box. That's on the page. We are on page 9 of your paper 2 book. When Kent intervenes and warns Lear that what he's doing is foolish, Lear's reaction is really interesting. He says to Kent, "Come not between the dragon and his wrath." Wrath is fury, anger. So what Lear is doing there is he's threatening Kent. Now you have to remember, Kent is not trying to insult Lear. Kent loves Lear. Kent is trying to serve Lear. He's doing what every friend should do. He's trying to warn his friend that he's making a mistake. But Lear doesn't want to hear that. And when he talks about himself, he uses this very powerful image. And don't forget, language and imagery are very important elements of your study of the play, of the dragon. The dragon, this mythical creature of unimaginable power. And what he's telling Kent is, don't annoy me. Close your mouth, because if you don't, you're going to get punished. Now, that's not attractive. That's an abuse of power. That's a foolish thing to do. Remember what we said in the introduction video. At the beginning of the play, Lear is not a man we like or admire. He's a man who behaves in a foolish way. He's a man who abuses his power. And that wonderful quote is a great example of that. Highly recommend you learn it. Not only does he abdicate, which disrupts the natural order, not only does he exacerbate or make worse that mistake by dividing the kingdom, not only does he punish the one daughter who actually loves him in Cordelia and threaten the one courtier loyal enough and brave enough to speak up and tell him he's doing wrong, but Lear then also announces this part, this condition to his abdication. He says, "Ourself by monthly course, with reservation of 100 knights, by you to be sustained, shall our abode make with you by due turn, only we shall retain the name and all the addition to a king." I'm not recommending that you learn the full 5 lines, but learn what I have highlighted in the quote. 100 knights, we shall retain the name and all the addition to a king. You have to understand what that means. He's saying to Goneril and Regan now, not to Goneril, Regan and Cordelia because she's been cast out. He's saying, I'm abdicating, I'm giving you power, but I'm holding on to 100 knights. Now 100 knights is a private army. The 100 knights gives him power. So if his daughters don't behave in the way he wants them to behave, if they don't listen to him, if they don't follow his advice, he will have literally a private army with which to enforce his will. That's not really abdication. So he's saying he's giving up power, but he's not really giving up power. And then he says that he wants to be known as King Lear. We will retain the name to a king. That's reasonable. Often when popes, for example, or kings abdicate or hand over power, they still retain the name. In America, we know Obama is still President Obama, even though he's no longer president. The title. But what he's saying is he wants the name and all the addition. Now, all the addition means all the respect, all the power, all the status. So He's saying, I'm abdicating. But then he's saying, but I want you still to treat me as king and obey me, and I'm going to keep this private army to enforce my will. Why is this significant? Is it any wonder that Goneril and Regan are forced, or find themselves, or feel themselves forced to break him? Is it any wonder that Goneril and Regan are determined that he will not take away what they have waited for so long and have had to humiliate themselves to achieve? Is he being reasonable here? No. Why not? The answer has to lie in his age, his lack of reasoning has to be connected to what we see later on in the play, which is the breakdown of the functioning of his mind. But regardless of that, Lear's abdication is an act of folly, which results in terrible suffering. He exacerbates or makes that situation much worse by that announcement, whereby he is saying, I'm going to give up power, but I'm actually going to hold on to power as well. And when we're talking about symbolism in the play, that retinue, write it in your box, retinue, of 100 knights, that private army, is a big, important symbol for Lear of his status. And that's why Goneril and Regan will target it later on in the play. Again, Kent intervenes and he is warned by Lear. In another wonderful example of Shakespeare's use of imagery, the bow is bent, make from the shaft. The bow is bent. A bow is an instrument of violence. When it's bent, it means it's ready to fire. It means that the person in the target of the bow is in danger of losing their life. The shaft is the arrow. If he lets go of the bow, the target will die. Lear again is threatening violence against Kent, because Kent is trying to show him that what he's doing is dangerous and self-destructive. Kent is the very definition of selfless here. Other people like Gloucester, they keep their mouths closed, they shut up, they say nothing, because they know Lear's character. But Kent has integrity. He is brave. He is honest. He is loyal. And he suffers because of it. And of course, he gives voice to his frustrations in probably his best speech in the play, when he asks, with a sense of incredulity, I'll again put that word on the knowledge checks. To be incredulous is to just not be able to believe what's happening. He says, be Kent unmannerly when Lear is mad. Look at that. The first time in the play those words are spoken. The connection between Lear's behaviour and madness. What wouldst thou do, old man? Thinkest thou that duty shall have dread to speak when power to flattery bows? I know you hate that quote, but I love it. It is absolutely fantastic. Learn it. What's he saying? He's saying, Lear, don't you understand? If you give your daughters power, they are not going to flatter you anymore. Can't you see that? And of course, this is Shakespeare, just being the genius that he was, laying the groundwork for what's coming. Because of course, Lear can't see, because he's blinded. And what blinds him is not a physical blindness. What blinds him is his hubris, his inability to see that anything he does is wrong. Kent, in brilliantly monosyllabic direct language, says, I'll tell thee thou dost evil. And I really do love that quote. I love the fact that the language is so direct, and I love the fact that Kent is willing to tell Lear that there are consequences for what he's doing, and that those consequences will be widespread. And of course, that's what the play is about. The play is about a kingdom plunged into civil war. We never see because the peasants, of course, don't matter. We never see all the people who fight in the war dying. We only ever see the aristocracy, the elite. But Lear has a duty to protect his kingdom, and in abdicating and in trying to retain his power while abdicating, he is going to cause untold suffering. So Kent's words are powerful and meaningful. And that is the end of the second video in which we analyse the important quotes from Act 1, Scene 1.